Happy Friday, everybody. It's Jim, it's Amedeus, and it is an NFL playoff weekend. Two games on Saturday, two games on Sunday, and that's about all the fun you could absolutely possibly enjoy. Amadeus, we're getting down to the final four here.
Yeah,
And
down to
Sean
the
popping up. Hey
down
Sean.
to the
No,
cream of the
another
crop.
slow day.
We just opened up and started talking about we got a good football weekend coming our way.
Yeah.
So,
It's interesting that the two games on Sunday seem to
mhm.
be a little closer. The odd Saturdays, a little bit bigger. But I was just talking to my buddy Mark Eckel about it, and
Mhm.
he doesn't really. It's tough. These games are tough to call. I don't know, especially if you're betting or whatever. I don't know. They're tough.
Well, I can say that the Baltimore game against Houston tomorrow, it's gonna be it's snowed, and of course you're along the I-95 corridor, so you know what's going on. It snowed about 4 to 6 inches today. Snow's not going to be the problem tomorrow. The
Cold.
problem tomorrow is going to be the cold and the wind. For those who don't know anything about M&T Bank Stadium, it's sitting right on the water, right there at the Inner Harbor. And the wind, even under just normal wind circumstances, kind of remember Sean how I used to whip around in the Meadowlands out there,
Yeah.
where all the
Brutal.
there's nothing to stop it.
Yeah, it's just in the middle of a big
Right.
open
Field, right? Well, that's what happens at M&T Bank Stadium, and they're saying that gusts are going to go from anywhere from 20 to 35 miles an hour. So that could cause a problem with that regard, and the fact that the air temperature is going to be at kickoff time. I was just checking it, right around between 19 and 20 degrees, which is a lot better than Kansas City last week, but it's still cold. And so you're talking about a wind chill factor there of about, give or take, 12 degrees. So you got 12 degrees. You got wind that's going in every direction. You don't know what direction it's headed. And so it's a good thing these two teams enjoy running.
They're actually lucky it's the early game too, because
Yeah.
it's still there's still a little sunlight. I mean, it's going to be a little the sun will be going down, and it'll be a little bit warmer than it would be if it was at 8:30 at night. I mean, if that game was at 8:30, I mean, probably another 10 degrees colder.
Right.
So I mean, it's I don't know. People were saying the Dolphins the Dolphins aren't going to let nobody likes playing when it's minus. I don't care. Like, I can't imagine anyone being out there in minus or 0 degree temperatures and liking it.
No, I don't think I've ever met a player who has said, "Oh man, bring on the cold." I mean, I don't. It's not that way. The problem too is, and you see it, you'll see that the guys, when they walk off the field, the first thing that they get is those large jackets that they throw over themselves. So you stand on the sidelines, in relative warm from that standpoint, because there's heaters and all kinds of stuff to keep you warm. And then you run out on the field and you realize, oh crap, it's like that it's like taking the polar bear plunge. I mean, you're suddenly going, crap, it is cold out here. So anyway, that will factor into tomorrow's game, and we got basically Lamar Jackson, the MVP of the league this year, taking on the Rookie of the Year in C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, definitely the weather's probably going to help Baltimore more, I would think, just because obviously they have that very strong running game, and even Lamar Jackson can run it himself, obviously. And the Texans, we've talked about how the Texans really, they don't have much of a run game this year. They found success in recent weeks running the ball, but really their offense has been a lot of just explosive plays down the field, and that's going to be very tough in these windy conditions, because if you look, I believe Houston is near the top of the NFL for yards per attempt when passing. So they're usually averaging something it's close to 8 yards per attempt, I believe. But
Mhm.
yeah, that should just tell you that they're always looking to throw the ball downfield. And obviously, those kind of conditions like wind and that's going to affect that. Not to mention, one thing a lot of people don't talk about with the cold is it affects the ball a lot too.
Yeah.
When you're catching that ball, if you're the wide receiver or even the kickers, that's like kicking a block of ice out there or trying to catch a block of ice.
Well, it's also a problem when you're a punt returner or a kickoff return guy, right? We saw it last week, a couple of muff punts where guys, when the ball is coming in, it may move 2 or 3 feet at the last second, and you go to adjust, and when you adjust, it hits off your body, and away you go. So you have to be careful in situations like that. By the way, this one is going to be over on ESPN ABC. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman on the call, and a couple weeks ago, guys, kind of flying under the radar, Baltimore signed Delvin Cook to the lineup, and Delvin was brought on because they had some injuries in the running back situation. So I'm kind of interested to see how Delvin Cook gets involved in this.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does in this one. Obviously, he hasn't really been a factor anywhere this year.
Well, he hasn't played, yeah.
Yeah, for any teams, but it's a little disappointing because I personally thought that I forget I'm blanking on his name right now, but that kid who I think he tore his ACL for the Ravens, he was really starting to break out right before he had that season-ending injury.
It's like a second-year player, yeah.
Yeah, I would have loved to see him in the playoffs just to see what he could do, because he was kind of in the same sense as we saw Kyron Williams on the Rams. He was really starting to break out, and it looked like maybe he was going to surpass Gus Edwards at some point. Obviously, Gus Edwards not healthy now, Gus Edwards was. I think I'm going to try and find his name. I think it's Keaton Mitchell or something like that. But,
yeah, it's either Keenan or Keith, one of the two.
Keaton Mitchell.
Keaton Mitchell. Okay.
Yeah. It wouldn't shock me if
December 19th. Yep.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me if he's the starting running back for the Ravens when he's back healthy, because he was just phenomenal.
Right. Kickoff time, by the way, was 4:30 p.m. for that game. So to your point, Sean, it's probably gonna get worse, because 4:30 is the time the sun pretty much goes down here, and so we're gonna have a much cooler evening, and that, along with the wind, makes
it's interesting too. I was reading a story on ESPN earlier about how the draft set up the Texans, because the Texans were terrible for 3 years,
right?
And they drafted C.J. Stroud, who looks right now, I guess maybe the Panthers have so many other issues, but maybe they took the right guy with the second pick. But they traded up to get Will Anderson. They might have the offensive and defensive rookie of the year, which is pretty interesting. And how D'Amico Ryan's got every the 2 players on his board he wanted, he got, and they've changed the whole organization. In one year, and it's
one draft.
Yeah, it's you don't see that as much in basketball. I know these guys come in, these first round picks, Wembanyama and some of these guys. I mean, you see right now with this Wembanyama's doing a good job changing the Spurs around right now. They're 7-27-33. It's harder, I think, in some of these other sports to do it. And, when you see football, you see worst to first a lot. And it's just kind of amazing how that is, because of all the sports, football has the most players that need to kind of, to do stuff and change the game. But it's amazing how a couple of these guys could come in. And, I think everyone's kind of just saying that the Ravens are going to win this easily. I don't. If Stroud has a big game and they could be in the game, I think of all the games, the upsets. When you look through it, I don't know which of these other games might be an upset. Maybe the Lions, but if the Texans play the way they've been playing, I mean, maybe they have a chance in this game. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. I do think I think Ravens are going to go to the Super Bowl, but I also think this is the game maybe where because the Bills and the Chiefs. I mean, that's basically a toss-up game, so it doesn't really if the Chiefs win that, it's not really an upset.
Here's what my theory of the case on the Baltimore-Houston game. Having seen a lot of these situations, Lamar Jackson, wants to get to a Super Bowl, so bad he can taste it. So cliche though it might be, I will have to say that sometimes when you've got a guy who's, in those circumstances, right? He wants to get there so bad. There might be a tendency on Lamar's part to be so amped up and so excited to have to prove something that he will make a mistake. And that, in a game like this with a young Houston team that's never been there before, making mistakes, the team who makes the least mistakes are probably going to benefit greatly by maybe they'll win. But I just think if Baltimore loses this game, it's likely to because Lamar is trying too hard to win the game. When in fact, if he would just stay and play within Moncton's offensive game plan, I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Just because, if the Ravens do find a way to lose this game, it's got to be mistakes by Lamar Jackson. Just because they don't have to do much to win it. They have a strong running game, right? And
good defense.
In these kind of conditions, and then obviously great schemer and John Harbaugh. This is a game where Lamar doesn't have to do anything to win it. He can just hand the ball off and win it. So yeah, I totally agree with you. If they find a way to lose, it might just be him, putting the team on his shoulders, thinking I need to make these kind of plays when really you don't. There's a game plan to win this without you overthrowing or things like that.
Well, and there's not throwing shade on Lamar, but he's his biggest enemy. All right. He will at times take off and run on things when, he could have passed it or he could have, handed it off, but he feels okay at times that maybe he's the only guy that can get that 4, 5, 6, 7 yard. So, and 9 out of 10 times he doesn't. Okay. But it is also what's gotten him hurt in the past. And so I hope for his sake that he realizes that, you don't have to do more than be, you're already the MVP. So you're doing something right. You don't have to do that. You can toss it to, he loves to go to his tight ends and that whole routine, and that's working out for him. Let the other guys help you win a championship. You don't need to do it by yourself.
Luke wants to say hi. He's all excited about the NFL games this weekend.
Hey, Luke, how's it going, buddy? We haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you.
How's it going?
He's all excited to watch we've been watching the AFCON. We've been watching the AFCON, the African Cup of Nations.
Okay.
So we just watched
that's cool.
Senegal beat Cameroon 2-1. Bad news 3-1 for Manchester United. Oh yeah, that's right. 3-1. Mane scored late. Bad news for Manchester United fans as Onana will be back soon instead of staying over there.
Could have kept him off the pitch for a while
worse
longer.
Since coming to the team. Should have stayed at Inter Milan.
I feel bad. I know I feel bad for the kid they signed from Turkey. The Bandier. I mean, they brought him in, and he plays for Turkey. He's a kind of a big time guy, and they haven't had a chance. He hasn't had a chance to play. I'm hoping he plays next weekend against Newport County. If they can't beat Newport County with him and goal, they should probably give up. But I'd like to see him get a chance. Just as a side note, there the other football quickly.
Right.
Let's get.
When you mentioned that, what was the name of the team that what county? I'm sorry.
Newport County. They're playing.
Does it sound like a South Jersey high school?
It does. Yes. Basically, I mean, I think Manchester United away fans are getting 1,000 tickets for the game because the stadium's very small. So, and I think you get 25% of the tickets for FA Cup match. So I think the stadium holds 5,000 maybe. So, Manchester United since like 2019 or 2020, every single game they played at home, and it's fans want to go to watch games in these small places, and on the road, and kind of go and travel and drink beer locally for two pound pints instead of paying 5 pounds at home. So.
Well, there you go. That's that reason enough. All right, so let the consensus here. I'm asking, boys. Consensus is we want we wish that we like the Baltimore Ravens to beat Houston. What's the number? Is it still high?
10, I think, right? 9.5, 10.
9.5. So it seems like both of these Saturday games have settled at 9.5 now.
Does that sound pretty heavy to you? That sounds pretty heavy to me.
It's a lot of points, to be honest. I was looking at Ravens on the money line. I don't know. I mean, it's cold, a lot of running. It seems like a lot of points.
Ball control is going to be the key here. You can't go throwing it around the yard because that's not going to work.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll say that now, and both guys will throw for 300 yards.
Play on that tomorrow.
I probably won't have a play on that specific game, but it is interesting because obviously they played in week 1. And the spread was similar. I think it was 8.5 for the Ravens. And obviously the Ravens struggled. Again, a game where they hadn't played. If you want to call it 3 weeks of rest, the off season of rest, right? But a game, they came out slow. It was almost tied at half. And then they just blew them out in the second half, 25-9. So obviously, I think the Texans have come a long way since week 1. The odds makers would disagree, though, and partly because I think the way the Texans have played on the road this year, just because this is a team that lost in New York to the Jets, 32 to 6, like a few weeks ago. So
they made the Jets look really good.
Yeah, that was I think Zach Wilson who started that one. So it's funny because CJ Stroud, he's pulled off these big like shiny wins against some of the better quarterbacks and teams in the NFL, but then loses to Bryce Young and the
gets a clunker
14 Panthers, and then he loses to that other one
the Jets.
The Zach Wilson and the Jets.
Right. Well, okay, we'll go Green Bay. I'm sorry, we'll go Baltimore, but I don't know that. I don't know the 9.5 points is it would scare me away from it.
Yeah, I started looking at it with a couple of the other like soccer games, and I would probably bet it down to 6, maybe. I think they win maybe by 7, but
it's gonna be a 1-score game one way or the other.
It seems, I don't know. I mean, maybe the Ravens score late to cover, but it's a lot of points.
Yeah, Baltimore this season has not been good against the spread.
And but we get to the second. I think we could do the same. I think we could kind of talk the same way about this next game.
Green Bay at San Francisco. That's the 8:00 game on Fox. Kevin Burkhardt, Greg Olson are making the call on that game. And there's an interesting stat here, which honestly I didn't know until I saw it this morning, and that was that Green Bay and San Francisco have played each other in the playoffs, and we're going all the way back to the NFL days without the pre-merger days, have played each other more times in the playoffs than any two teams in the NFL.
I know that I mean, there's been so many big time games.
Well, this boils down to: do you believe in Jordan Love? I know what Amedeus is going to say, so I'm going to shut up and let him talk.
Yeah, I'm not a Jordan Love believer. I've gone on record many times this season. Look, I'll admit he's improved a lot in this offensive system. He's definitely gotten better since Thanksgiving, that big game, that big win they had against the Lions. But I still don't think Jordan Love is the franchise quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. And yeah, they pulled off, what they did was magical in Dallas last week. But, Dallas has a thing, right? They're like, and I even saw somebody Photoshop the Toronto Maple Leaf on where the Dallas Star is on the helmet. So
Yeah, I definitely.
Yeah,
That's funny.
So this is that's probably where I saw it, Sean. But yeah, this is what I'm saying is like, Dallas has kind of like they usually choke in the playoffs, and then you get this Packers team that comes in there. Now the stat is what they have more playoff wins at AT&T than the Cowboys do in the new stadium. But yeah, it's one of those things where look, the Packers had a clear game plan last week. Their game plan was get out to an early lead because the Cowboys have struggled playing from behind all season. And that's exactly what they did. They got out to an early lead. Now, I watched that game. I watched the first drive, and what I saw was the Packers weren't able to do anything. They actually got put behind the sticks. It was like a 3rd and 14, and then the flags started coming out. And the flags helped them down to the end zone, and that's what gave them the lead in that game. This is a much different 49ers team that they're going up against. Obviously, we saw the 49ers destroy Dallas earlier. So that'll just tell you, Dallas compared to the Niners. And this is a much better defense I think they're going to be facing here in San Francisco. The 49ers, obviously, we've talked about it all year. They're my favorite to win the Super Bowl. I still think they're a team that can beat the Ravens. And personally, a lot of people want to hate on Brock Purdy, but I think he has the potential to be an elite quarterback in this league. I mean, it's very evident just from when he was inserted in the offense last season. This 49ers offense has averaged over 30 points a game since Brock Purdy has started in the offense. It is unbelievable. They were not doing that under Jimmy Garoppolo. They were very, obviously he was a game manager, and they were a very defensive kind of team. Brock Purdy, say what you want about him, he brings an explosive element to this offense that we haven't seen with the 49ers in recent years. Also, the 49ers, obviously number 1 seed in the NFC, won 12 games this season. 11 of their wins were by double digits. The only one that they didn't was a 7-point win against the Rams, which Sean McVay kicked a field goal with time expiring just to cover the spread in that game when they didn't even have a chance to, try the onside kick afterwards. So that was a very head-scratching play and a game they probably should have won by 10.
There is a point there that you brought up, and this is kind of like a redemption game for Brock Purdy. It was one of those situations where he went in and last year when they had the playoffs, and he didn't have a good game. And I think this time he's focused and ready to go. And you got Christian McCaffrey, you got you've got George Kittle playing at tight end. You got 2 or 3 wide receivers who are outstanding and athletic. Go ahead.
There's a couple facts about this game. The referees on this game, Alex Kemp led the NFL with an average of 15 flags per game.
Oh, God.
The Packers and 49ers both finished in the top third for most flags. So about the same, 125, 124. So expect a lot of flags in this game. The Packers have won 4 straight games outright as underdogs. Their longest underdog win streak since 2011, 2012. So I thought that's pretty interesting. Obviously, those streaks end at some point, but they've been actually pretty decent against against the spread and outright. But yeah, that flag thing. I mean, you got sometimes that takes points off the board, or that backs teams up,
takes them out of field goal range,
and stuff like that. So if you're thinking about maybe an over in this game, maybe you got to rethink that little thing. Maybe it changes, takes 3 points off the board or something like that. So.
Well, I don't. This is going to sound bad, but I don't really care at this point because I know there's Cowboy fans out there that are who they are. I'm not sure. Watching that Green Bay game against the Cowboys last week, I'm not sure the Cowboys were even in it. I mean, the way that those guys were so open and so easily catching the ball, it's like the Cowboys just didn't show up at their own stadium, which made no sense. That's not going to happen with San Francisco.
Yeah, I totally agree with you because I saw the same thing in CeeDee Lamb. Like when he dropped that big
Yeah.
3rd and 8 early in the game,
Yeah.
you saw Dak went over him, kind of reamed him out, and then Mike
Yeah.
McCarthy came over, put his arm around him and said, "Come on, we
Right.
need you in the game." But like
Right.
the whole time they were showing him, and he was just kind of like staring off in the distance. It was
Right.
almost like someone told him not to catch in the game.
Right.
So it was a very weird thing.
It's like
to
a
see
4-year-old
from
that
him.
It's like a 4-year-old who you're disciplining.
Yeah,
Go over
and
the
that's
corner,
the
sit
other
down.
thing, right? So I think nobody expected that to happen, and Green
Mhm.
Bay kind of caught Dallas off guard. Well,
Right.
now the 49ers are aware of Green Bay, right? And they're
A
going
lot
to
of film
say,
on Green Bay. Yes.
yeah, we're not going to let you just come out like that, 20-0. And so there's going to be less of an element of surprise because now the 49ers are going to see they did it to Dallas last week. Okay, they can do something like that. Let's be prepared for it.
Right. Yeah. They did them a very good film study for this week on that one. So San Francisco's 9 as well in this one. I'm asking.
Yeah, not 9.5.
Okay.
And the other thing, right? Aaron Jones had a huge game. We haven't really seen a lot of Aaron Jones. Their running game has obviously he's been banged up, but even with AJ Dillon, their running game hasn't been great this year.
Mm-hmm.
And Aaron Jones had a huge game, 120 yards, close to 120 yards, and I think 3 touchdowns. But yeah, he had a great running game, and we've seen Dallas struggle against the running game. That was how the Bills beat them when they went up to Buffalo. That was how the Dolphins beat them, albeit the Dolphins' offense kind of stalled in the second half. But again, it was the run game that really got them to that position where they could win that game. And so this was something we've seen. Dallas, they struggle from behind. They struggle against the run game, and that's exactly what the Packers did. They once got that flag to help them with the first down. All of a sudden, they were able to get the run game going after that, which kind of got them down, put that score on the board, and then Dallas was out of it. Very similar to the sense of what we saw TCU do to Michigan years ago or 2 years ago in the playoffs, right? It was one of those things where they weren't expecting TCU to come out like that, and they started making mistakes, and then you put yourself in such a hole, and you're not built to come back from that. Where very difficult.
By the way, game time temperature for this game in Frisco, which is 8 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock out on the coast, so it's going to be dark out there as well. The thing, there's no the precipitation. There's a 40% chance of light rain. I don't think that would be affecting of any way to either team. But so the temperatures are not going to be uncomfortable out in San Francisco. What the issue might be, and it shouldn't affect the game, and that is the marine layer, the fog that's out in San Francisco that comes around this time of the year and about this time of day might be rolling in. So there'll be the ball. My only point is the ball could be slick during the course of that game. And given what Sean said about the flag throwing, it may not be over until midnight. So it begins at 8 o'clock on Fox. And of the 2 games we just talked about, Houston and the Green Bay game, from my standpoint, I would feel more comfortable giving points in the San Francisco game than I would the Baltimore game. But that's not you guys are the experts.
It's tough because Jordan Love's been good. I mean, but I think the Texans are probably a little bit better team right now than the Packers. And maybe the 49ers are a little bit better team than the Ravens. So that's probably a fair point.
Well, Houston is fast, and so is Baltimore. So, but I think the thing for Houston that Green Bay, the thing for Houston and Green Bay is that Houston's playing in much colder and much more difficult conditions from a standpoint of trying to play the kind of game they want to play. Green Bay is playing in San Francisco in a much better weather situation, but I do think you got Nick Bosa on one side, Maurice Sweat on the other side. For they've got 2 outstanding wing guys who could give Jordan Love all kinds of grief today on Saturday. Sorry. So I don't know. We'll have to see. But as I say, you guys are the experts. What's the theory of the case on Francisco and Green Bay?
I think the Packers have to hit some of these these down the field
chunk plays. Yeah.
Yeah, the 49ers are pretty good at defending those, but I think they have to hit some. If they every time you thought maybe Dallas had a chance to get back in, I mean, they just went right down the field and scored. I mean, they just got to, you know, they're probably going to trail at some point. I mean, they may trail the whole game, but they got to just make sure. If they try to, if they give up a touchdown, look, got to go out and score. You got to try to stay in the game. So,
well, Green Bay scored on, I believe it was 6 of their first 8 possessions. That's almost a perfect game.
Yeah, the thing that if I was betting it, I would be a little nervous about it. Is like, I mean, there's just no way they're gonna play that well. Like it was almost perfect. Like, not even if they play to that level against the 49ers, they can still lose the game because the 49ers offense is pretty good as well. McCaffrey and Debo and all these guys. So. And if they don't play to that level, they probably don't have a chance. So, it's tough to do that 2 games in a row.
Like we said, especially since San Francisco has that film on so they'll look at it and they'll see how it plays out. All right, let's slide over to Sunday, 3 p.m. NBC. Tirico and Collingsworth are on the call. Tampa Bay goes to Detroit. No worry about the weather there. It's inside at Forbes Field.
Oh, is it? I wasn't
it's
sure.
Inside of Ford Field. There you go.
I saw the press conference and I wasn't sure if it was inside or not.
So they're playing indoors. So no matter how cold it is, and it will be cold in Detroit, that's not a problem that either's going to have to worry about. There's not going to be a wind problem that either's going to have to worry about. And the track will be ready to run.
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead, Sean.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, definitely. No weather for them to acclimate themselves with here. I know exactly what Sean's alluding to there, but yeah, I mean, this Bucks team. What can I say, Jim?
They're our team.
This is our team, all right? Everybody left them for dead. We snagged them up at plus 700 to win the NFC South.
Right.
This is our team.
Can you cash that ticket? Yeah.
I did. It was a nice ticket to cash. Actually, to be fair, they haven't paid it out yet. I guess they're waiting for the playoffs to end too. It's just kind of just sitting there, but it's okay.
Sorry, gaining interest. Yeah.
Yeah. It's getting one of these days. It's getting cash.
It's gonna show. It's gonna show.
This game has my favorite prop bet of the weekend. By the way.
Okay, what's that?
Baker Mayfield over 254.5 passing yards. The Lions have given up 345 yards passing at a minimum in 4 straight games. Everyone taught, they're very good against the run and Hutchinson and all these guys up front, but you can move the ball against them. So, and Mayfield looked really good last week. I think there's a good chance. Like I think this is the game. If there's going to be an upset, I think it's this game here. A straight up, money line upset. This will be the game. I just think they blitzed the Eagles like crazy. 59.
Yeah, they did cover 0. They had cover 0 9 times.
And when they played the Lions the first time, they were in a zone and they just let kind of Goff pick them. There's just pick them apart. 260 yards. I think when they were in zone coverage, they're not gonna. Todd Bowles not gonna let that happen this time. He's gonna go out and go after him. And I just. I think Tampa has a chance here. I know a lot of people don't think that, but I definitely do.
One thing too, guys, that Tampa Bay does, and Amedeus and I've looked at this the whole way through, is their running game is really, tossing the ball to K. Dot and a tight end, or maybe they spread it around. They just, their goal is to try to get the ball out of Baker Mayfield's hands fast. If a team is rushing them, and so there's a lot of little quick passes that is like a pass to K. Dotton for 4 yards turns out to be 12 yards because, he catches it in stride and goes with it. So you have to be, you can rush Tampa and try to get a hold of Baker, and he got sacked 4 times last week. But at the end of the day, they work to get rid of the ball as quick as possible. And the good news for them is they've got wide receivers like Godwin, and as I said, K. Otten, and, the group who have no problem with regards to running good routes or coming back for the ball for that matter. So I like that. Now, Jared Goff in Detroit, they played one of their best games of the year last week as well. So it really should be a fun and entertaining game. And as I said before, there's no weather issue here. So what's the over under on this thing?
I think it's close to 50. I can double check
I have it
that
here.
right now.
I have it.
40
Yeah, I
and
have
a
it right
half.
49.
Oof.
That's an interesting. Do you think that might be a little light, guys?
And I think there's going to be some points. Once again, I think if Mayfield's passing the ball and they're scoring, I mean, the Lions are going to probably score some points as well.
Yeah.
That's not.
That would be interesting, but it's going to be a fun game. It is. I think you could make a case for either of these teams to win, and Eminem will be in the house, so for what that counts. So yeah, 3:00. The team that Amadeus and I have been willing to back the whole time has a good day in Detroit. We'll have to see how it plays out, but it'll be fun to watch.
Look, this is you got 2 number 1 picks here, obviously going up against each other. But I think what people seem to forget, like I know there's a lot of hate for Baker Mayfield out there, and
for no reason.
And there's a lot of compassion for Jared Goff right now because you really felt for him. The Rams abandoned him, then they go and win the Super Bowl without him. So yeah, there's a lot there. But I made this connection on another show. Jared Goff and Baker Mayfield are one and the same, really.
Yeah.
Two former number 1 picks that were given up on by their team. What's the difference is Goff had a landing spot in the trade with Stafford.
Right.
Baker didn't really have a landing spot. It was more so, we rushed to give Deshaun Watson all this money to convince him to come to Cleveland. And then once we got that done, it was like we didn't really know what to do with you. So we'll just send you. We kind of got to get rid of you for free now. And the Panthers are the only takers. So, yeah, that was one where, like, he hasn't had, and we've seen what he can do. He's a good quarterback. Look, anybody that can learn the Ram and Sean McVay's offense in a 6-hour plane ride and go win the first game he played with them, like you've got my respect. And then look, say what you want, like, because another thing I said is like, this is a very the defense is young. The defense is very different and young, and the talent is performing right now. But the offense, a lot of the weapons are the same as the one that won the Super Bowl with Tom Brady. Like Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. These are all the tight end. These are all guys that were there. I think even Rachaad White was on that team as well.
He was on that team. Yeah.
Yeah. Not a great and look.
Leonard Fournette was the main back on that team, but he was a rookie that year.
Yeah, my one tip to Tampa is that's that piece they're still missing, getting rid of Leonard Fournette, because Rachaad White, look, I'll give him a lot of credit. He's been a lot better in these last few weeks, but this is not a between the tackles kind of running back. And if Tampa, you really want to improve your team next year, draft a workhorse running back. That's what you need to improve this.
Or sign Derrick Henry.
Yeah, that would be nice, but we'll see about that. But this is one where, look, Baker Mayfield, he's learned the offense, and a lot of people, when I make that connection that, this offense is very similar to the one that won the Super Bowl a few years ago with Tampa, a lot of people tell me, oh, well, that offense had Tom Brady. Okay, well, Tom Brady went 8-9 last year and lost in the wild card round. Baker Mayfield went 9-8 this year, won the division, and won in the wild card round. So, like,
yeah, but to your point, Dave Canales, who's the new offensive coordinator, came in, and a lot of the stuff is everybody had to learn. And so, I mean, this is kind of what they're seeing now is that Canales' offensive wizardry, if you will, is starting to pay off. And I think that's the reason Tampa Bay wants to hold on to Baker Mayfield, is they think that he can take this team and be a franchise quarterback for, 3-4 years into the future.
Yeah, definitely. That was big into it too. And look, I'm not trying to compare Baker Mayfield to Tom Brady or anything at that, because I don't think Baker Mayfield is anywhere close to Tom Brady. Obviously, Tom Brady had a career and a half. But what I'm saying is, don't think Baker Mayfield is that big of a downgrade from the Tom Brady we've seen these last few years, because trust me when I say Tom Brady's, he's the greatest of all time, one of the greats, if you want to call him the true greatest of all time. But the fact of the matter is, he wasn't the same quarterback he was on the Patriots when he came to the Bucs. And the last few years, it definitely wasn't the real Tom Brady out there. So all I'm saying is, don't think Baker Mayfield is as big a downgrade in this offense as the Tom Brady we've seen the last few years on that team.
No, I'll tell you what, I'll take him before it takes shared love.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd agree with that.
Now, the night game in 11-degree weather, 6:30 p.m. Sunday night, CBS. Nance and Romo. I don't think Nance and Romo left Buffalo. I think they just stayed there. So Kansas City at Buffalo, the first time that Patrick Mahomes is going to have a playoff game outside of the confines of Arrowhead Stadium. So, boys, these guys, Amedeus, I think you said it the other day, that these guys play so often every year, they might as well be like a division, division teams play. This is the first home game Buffalo gets against them.
Yeah, it feels like we see him twice a year, but never in Buffalo, right? It's always twice a year at Arrowhead. But 100%, this is probably the best game from a matchup standpoint, just because obviously it's the lowest spread at 2.5 point favorites for the Buffalo Bills. But as Sean said, this is a game where either team could win, and are you really going to look at it like it's that big of an upset? No, and the line reflects that as well, with it being less than a field goal.
Yeah, if this was in Kansas City, the line would be the same for Kansas City. I mean, it's basically the 3 points for a home team here. They'd probably be a 3-point favorite. It's every time it comes down to the last. Remember the overtime game, and the Chiefs ended up covering. They went right down the field with 13 seconds. It's probably going to be something like that. I mean, it's going to be tight. This game for me I'll probably just watch it instead of betting on it. Maybe there's some maybe prop plays you could get, but I think it's too tough to call here. I wouldn't be stunned if the Bills won 30-0. I wouldn't be stunned if the Chiefs won 32-9. Like it's right. But most likely it's going to be like 31-28.
Their usuals, yeah. And again, we'll have to see what it's like in Orchard Park. It's never comfortable there in the wintertime, especially this deep into January. So it's going to be cold. Kansas City, very loud, boisterous, crowd. Same thing in Buffalo. You're going to have, the Mafia is going to be there to go, and it's going to be a fun game. So yeah, this is one of those games where you just kind of sit back, grab your favorite beverage, and just put your feet up and enjoy it.
Yeah, the Mafia is going to be jumping through folding tables. It's we don't have that in Kansas City.
No, they just point their what is it? They stole it from FSU. They do the tomahawk chop.
Some guy was on fire doing it the other day too. All right, that's one way to get warm. Light me on fire and let's go into the table.
But you better hope that stuff goes out fast. Oh man.
Let's go Bills.
There go Bills. All right. So Houston, Baltimore, Green Bay, San Francisco tomorrow. That's Houston, Baltimore. ESPN 4:30 kick. Aikman and Buck. Green Bay tomorrow night is in Santa Clara. In Santa Clara against San Francisco. 8:00 Fox. Kevin Bernhardt, Greg Olson. Sunday, Tampa Bay at Detroit. That's an NBC game. Tarico Collinsworth. And we roll out the divisional round. Kansas City at Buffalo, CBS, Nance, and Romo on the call. So there you go, boys and girls. That's your weekend football, and it's gonna be a cool weekend. So I'm sure that the numbers are going to be pretty good from a standpoint of looking at that whole situation. Should be very entertaining. So there you
Can't
go.
imagine I'm going to be going too many places. I might have we got a big cancer fundraiser going on
Oh, okay.
tomorrow, but we got to see because we're getting hammered with snow, so they might have to postpone it, move it back to next weekend or one of these weekends. So see how it goes. But yeah, if I don't have to leave, I'm not leaving.
There you go. Any you guys? What we touched on, obviously the playoffs, which are basically the Final Four in each conference. What's going on over the weekend in soccer? Anything over there that we should be paying attention to, boys?
I think the big game's Monday. Brighton and Wolves. Wolves have been playing really well of late. They won the other day in extra time. Beat Brentford to advance to the fourth round, the FA Cup. But Arsenal, it's the second part of the split weekend where they there's 5 games and then 10 teams have off. So Arsenal plays Palace early. There's no 10 a.m. games. It's just 7:30 on Saturday and then 12:30 Brentford Nottingham Forest. I give that a miss if you want. Nottingham Forest once again in trouble with the FFP. The early game Sunday, Sheffield United West Ham. The late game Sunday, Bournemouth and Liverpool at 11:30. That could be interesting because Liverpool's missing some players and Bournemouth's playing really well. And then obviously the Monday game, Brighton and Wolves. And then, you got the FA Cup the following weekend. And then you got a lot of Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday games. It's going to start these games where we're going to be playing when we get to February, January, February, March with all the cups. The FA, it's basically wall-to-wall games now starting after this weekend. So there's not.
That's good.
Yeah. It's a good time to be home during the day.
It will work out that way. All right. Before we get out of here, point of personal privilege, I want to say that USF beat Memphis last night in that matchup of super teams. USF was down 20 points and came back and won that game 74-73. So
wow.
Yeah,
not for nothing.
I saw that score early. It was like 28-11, and I was like, "Oh, Jim, I turned the TV off already." Probably.
I did.
Then,
I did, and then I said, "I'll come back."
Yeah, later on, I saw it was 72-70. I didn't actually see how the game ended, so I shocked that they came
it ended
back
at the free throw line
and win. But yeah, that was one where when I saw them come back, I said they came back like 20 point. Man, maybe they do it tonight. So there you go, the Jim's South Florida Bulls
finally
get it done. And you know what? I think I didn't see the final score for this one, but Wichita was leading FAU the whole night too. And didn't I tell you, you would have had a better chance against FAU. FAU just has.
Well, Wichita ended up losing, but not by much. And Wichita is an 0 for 14 in the conference.
Yeah, so that'll tell you all you need to know about the way FAU's playing right now.
So, and South Florida plays Wichita on Sunday, so at home.
If you're not favored by 20 points in that game, Jim,
I don't think. I'm hoping they aren't. I'm hoping it's, they don't get that big ahead. They went on the road. They won a game. Yay! I'm happy. But I don't want to. They're not quite. They're not quite challenging for the national championship just yet. Give them some time.
They're not the Tar Heels.
No,
it might be a letdown spot too. The way Wichita,
I'm worried about that.
Lead. Yeah, it might be a bit of a letdown off the win, and then Wichita feeling hungry after that blown lead. Oof.
Well,
we'll see what the spread is.
The goal is they're having the Yuengling Center, which is where they play, is a very nice facility on campus, and it seats about 11,000. And the goal is to watch the game, and then everybody will stick around and watch the Bucks play on on Sunday. So that's how. playing
You
for
know
him.
what I like about this stuff now that too, just you look at the standings in the Atlantic 10 or the AAC. I mean, they're just these monster conferences with 12, 15 teams, 18 teams, the ACC, and it's just all. There's no divisions. There's no whatever. You win the league. You get North Carolina is leading the ACC right now at 6-0. If they win all their games, they'll win the league and they'll beat all the other teams. I like how they've done that with the Big West is
Right.
now is the CAA is kind of a monster league now. So I just kind of think that's pretty cool how they do that. And Princeton. Hey, I mean, talk about Princeton. I can't believe they're not ranked.
Are they undefeated as well?
They're 14-1, but they're not going to lose. I mean, they're going to be like 27-1 or 28-1 by the time they get to the ACC play.
Do they still do that backdoor stuff and the passing and all that?
I haven't watched a lot of games lately. My buddy Kyle Franco does covers them, but no, I think they play. I mean, a little bit, but I think they play. I mean, because remember they went to Sweet 16 last year. They play. They have really good offensive talent. It's pretty amazing how good Princeton's become in basically all kinds of sports now because it's become such a great school. So, but yeah, they're pretty good. They probably won't lose a game until the tournament.
Who's the best team in Philly now?
Villanova? I don't know.
I don't know either. I'm just asking.
It's a little bit of a down year, I think, for Philly basketball.
Because they always have one of the colleges up there doing okay.
The 76ers.
That's it.
You're probably right.
Nova's a team getting some votes for whatever, but yeah, I think it's a little bit down. It's not kind of
no Temple. No.
You know why? Because the Flyers are second in the in their division in the Eastern Conference. So it's a hockey year for Philly. That's why.
There you go.
That's amazing. I can't even. I still can't believe that's happening.
John Tortorella, man, is turning that team around.
Torts. He's one of those guys who's good for a year and a half.
Yeah.
And then then everybody's like, we've heard the speeches, John, shut up and leave us alone. But he's, that first year, man, he's booking in the playoffs.
He's getting it out of them now. If they don't win the cup this year, that's it. That's their only chance.
There's two other guys that do that in hockey. Bruce Boudreau. You can put him on any team, and boom, they start winning. And now they may make the playoffs, but the next season, Bruce, about halfway through the season, he's gone. And Barry Trotz.
Yep.
Kenny Albert's roommate when they both were doing he was the coach of the Baltimore Skipjacks and Kenny was the voice of the Baltimore Skipjacks. They used to room on the road.
Wow.
And one other final topic with regard to Bruce Boudreau. We all remember the movie Slapshot with Paul Newman. Paul Newman's apartment in Johnstown was Bruce Boudreau's apartment. They used Bruce's apartment for the movie Slapshot.
Wow.
So there you go. Trivia for the weekend. All right, boys. Let's talk about where they can find all the stuff you guys are going to be doing over the weekend.
Yeah, make sure you check out my premium picks at bigowl.com, pickadvisor.com, and theinsidersroom.com. The links are in the description below. Already, nice 1-0 start to the day. I had Senegal in the African Cup of Nations earlier. I still have, one more AFCON play in a few minutes if you can grab that. And then bit of a smaller card for me tonight, just the one NBA play and 2 college basketball. So make sure you check that out.
What was that line? What was the Senegal line?
-110.
Man, that was a steal.
Was a steal. The best team. They might be the best team in the tournament. Them and Nigeria.
They're
top. Did you see Nigeria was +260 yesterday? Ridiculous.
Senegal's a top 15 team in the world.
Yeah,
I think.
100%. And they're so fast watching that game today. They are so fast. You can't even counter on them. There's 8 guys back in the box.
Yeah, I'd be stunned if they don't win this tournament.
Yeah.
One real quick thing, which is kind of a sad story bit. It looks very much like the end of Sports Illustrated. In the last couple of hours, it's been announced that
Fired everybody, right?
Everybody got fired. Now, just between you and me, having been in the business, I'm not sure how you can put a magazine out if you don't have anybody writing for it.
Well, the other thing too is, I mean, you fan-sided and Bleacher Report, and I mean, I saw a thing earlier. Mike Sample, who does the show, he's on our podcast, the Box to Box. People don't go to sports; they go to fans, they go to Bleacher Report, they go to because they have more of a pulse of the local teams, and because you get rid of all your writers. Like, I mean, it's the same thing. Like, if you don't have local, look, it's to a smaller level, but when who are you going to believe for Mercer County soccer, Mercer County basketball? Me, who watches all the games all the time, or somebody from North Jersey who sees the stats and writes about them. And I just think sometimes these papers and these things, magazines are a time of it's a long gone thing, but SI.com and stuff, but it just wasn't, I guess they were spending too much money, and you got the Athletic now, and you have these other things, and it's just Sports Illustrated was it. There was nothing else. The Sporting News and all this stuff was a little different, but now you got too much stuff. You got Twitter and you got Athletic, but yeah, sad day.
It's just that growing up, you had the Sports Illustrated magazine that was such a
swimsuit issue.
Yeah, if you bought it for nothing else but that, it was an amazing thing. But
they used to, what like whenever North Carolina would win or Florida State would win football title or something like that, I remember my mom would always like reorder Sports Illustrated because they would be like, "Oh, here's your basketball from North Carolina national and your hat." So like I have all these hats and things all over the place because my mom used to like reorder all this stuff. Like, yeah, let's get the hat instead of just going out and buying the hat. Like, before
get the official Sports Illustrated package. Yeah.
Now you go on like Temu or something like this, and you have the hat in like a couple of days, or Amazon bought instead there you just bought you got another 16 years of Sports Illustrated for however some crazy price, and you get a free hat out of it.
So. No, it was amazing, and there just were so many covers and so many things, but that was back in a day when, as you said, there wasn't so much in the way of content that was out there, and they had some phenomenal writers at Sports Illustrated over the years.
That's right.
So anyway, well, sad day, but life goes on, and so does sports, and we will be back and see you guys on Monday. For Amedeus, Sean, I'm Jim. Enjoy your weekend. Be safe out there, and as we like to say, cash those tickets and have some winners. By the way, Sean's information is also in the show box below too, so check it all out.